On Central News tonight, lucky win for Valentine's Day, events for Hamilton, the Garden Art Festival is underway, and help for struggling mothers. Those stories plus your weather update at 7:30 and 10:30 tonight. Kia ora, welcome to Central News for Monday the 16th of February. I'm Hilary Entwistle. Luck, not love, was in the air for Bay of Plenty residents, with one lucky Greeton punter winning $4.5 million in Lotto's Powerball First Division draw. Corporate Communications General Manager Emilia Mazur says this win makes the first 2 months of 2015 some of the luckiest ever for the Lotto, Powerball and Big Wednesday players. It was also a lucky Valentine's Day for Ian and Robin from Papamoa, who spun and won $100,000 with the winning wheel. Abandoned boats in Bay of Plenty waters are causing a headache for the Regional Council as boat owners run out of time, money or interest, and boats end up left at the end of an often unpaid mooring. Regional Harbour Master Peter Buell says the costs of maintenance and fees can be more than boaties understand or can afford, and the council has had to dispose of a growing number of vessels. Mr Buell says the problem is not just limited to the harbours. Rotorua Lakes has also a number of abandoned boats. Many rugby balls in backyards around the country sport the name Gilbert, but now they will be on all Bay of Plenty Rugby Union fields. The agreement will see Gilbert be the exclusive ball supplier for all rugby across the union, including representative club and school. John Clark, Gilbert brand manager, says the partnership with the Bay of Plenty Rugby Union continues to demonstrate Gilbert's commitment to supporting grassroots rugby throughout New Zealand. The Balloons Over Waikato Trust have released their third and final special shape balloon for the March 25th to 29th festival. Simba, the Lion King, completes the group of flying animals at this year's festival. Simba is based in Belgium but was originally made to be flown in South Africa. The balloon did only a few flights and then stayed unused in his bag for more than 4 years. Owner and pilot Lawi van Lufelin flew to South Africa to purchase Simba and during his stay visited a small safari park where he learnt of the terrible poaching of animals in Africa. He promised to do something for rhino and other wildlife by using Simba as a messenger against the enormous problem of poaching in Africa. Now for our region's weather, Hamilton, fine spells with a few showers developing in the afternoon. Your expected high is 24 and an overnight low of 11. The rest of the Waikato fine with showers developing, Paeroa 24 and 14, Matamata 22 and 13, Te Awamutu 24 and 11, and Tokoroa 22 and 11. Tauranga fine spells with a few showers, 22 and 15. The rest of the Bay of Plenty fine with showers developing, Te Puke 21 and 15. Now for our marine forecast for our regions, the west coast, Raglan, variable 10 knots, easing to southeast 15 knots. Your high tide is at 3:37. East coast Bay of Plenty, southeasterly of 15 knots, easing to a variable 10 knots. High tide is at 6:30 in the evening. Still to come on Central News, help if your baby is sick but you can't afford to go to the GP. But after the break, Hamilton's the place to be this year with so many events planned. Welcome back to Central News on TV Central. February and March are lining up as a great time to be in Hamilton, with major sporting events as well as an exciting range of local and international acts taking centre stage. Anne-Marie spoke with Hamilton Mayor Julie Hardacre to speak about those events, as well as the ICC Cricket World Cup, which got underway last Friday.
Amazing, isn't it? Gosh, we seem to be in countdown mode the last couple of years, but look, it does get underway this weekend on Sunday, big game, and the weather's been so great. I'm pretty sure we're going to have huge crowds for that, and then of course we've got the other two games coming up after that. So, you know, we are kicking off this weekend by welcoming on the Zimbabwe players to our city at the Hamilton Gardens, and then the game on Sunday, and I think we're going to have a really good crowd there. It's going to be brilliant.
This week, the FIFA Under-20 draw was announced. Tell me who we're going to have playing in Hamilton.
Yeah, so that was a really exciting event, and I have to say, absolutely fabulous to be up there. They actually do the whole draw with balls, and it's quite complicated. We were all in the audience wondering how it was all going to work, but it had a very important methodology to it. So we've got a great group. We've got Qatar, we're hosting Qatar, and they are hosting the big World Cup in 2022, so I think it's pretty exciting they're going to be here in the city. We've also got Colombia, we've got Portugal, and we're waiting for our team from Africa. They're still to have their playoffs, so we've got an amazing group. And I think we're going to have some fantastic games here.
50,000 tickets have already been sold.
That's right, and that's before people knew what the groups were and what teams were actually playing in particular cities. So now that we know that, I'm really confident that we're going to have big sales, particularly in Hamilton here, because you know we're going to have that Latin flavour and that flair and excitement about football that I think people are really excited about. And the teams that we have in our group really are exceptional teams up there in terms of rankings, and so I think we're kind of lucky.
And of course the Hamilton Gardens Art Festival is underway this Friday. Who are you most looking forward to seeing?
Well, you know, I'm looking forward to the Soweto Choir because everyone has said that they are just incredible. So that's going to be a big event this weekend. I'm looking forward to that. And you know, Dame Malvina's got a wonderful concert going on. There's some neat shows on. There's some outdoor movies. I see the old outdoor movies are out, and I thought, well, I might trottle onto one of those. Roman Holiday, I think, is on. A great movie that I really do like. But you know, there's something for everyone at the Gardens Festival. I think that's what makes it such a wonderful event and so well attended. Because there's the professional international artists, but then there are some of the things that the community can get in behind, and stuff for the kids, and even the debate adds a little bit of flavour and a little bit of seriousness to some of the stuff. So I'm probably going to be going to almost all of the events and really looking forward to it. And the weather is predicted to be wonderful.
It's weather dependent, isn't it?
A little bit it is, but we've had great weather.
Of course, Claudelands Event Centre is booked Kenny Rogers this weekend
also.
also.
Kenny Rogers, oh gosh.
And then Slash next week.
Something for everyone, one would say.
Do you think that Hamilton is becoming more and more of a destination and event city?
Look, I think, probably about 8 or 10 years ago, that was sort of a brand that Hamilton was promoting. And I think, we've moved in terms of our approach to events since then, because we've got some iconic city events that are really well attended, the Gardens Festival, balloons, and these are big events. But Claudelands has added a new dimension, I think, to the event offering in the city, because it's enabled us to host and have for the public to see, big international artists that, unless we had Claudelands, we wouldn't have those in our city. And Kenny Rogers, an example, and Slash, of course, huge following with Slash, I have to say, interesting name, but massive excitement about him coming to our city, and that is only possible because we have the Claudelands Event Centre. You know, the Seekers, Disney on Ice, which was the Disney World performance, it was the real deal. We've been very lucky and really well attended. So I think, there's a sort of a maturity about the events we're having now, and attracting really big crowds and something for everyone. So I think you're probably right. I think people are starting to really see us as a destination for those sorts of things.
For more details on upcoming events in Hamilton, go to hamilton.gov.nz. For our next story, we all know that too much TV can be bad, and so can too much screen time. But how much is too much?
Well, it was about screen time, basically the amount of time that we spend looking at what can be anything from a phone to an iPad to TVs to playing video games. And it was really looking especially at young people and how much they're looking at screens. And there's basically this competing message. You've got educational people saying more, need devices, use them at school, they're great for educational tool, which we agree with. But then you've got health groups and research coming in and saying, hang on, yes, big benefits, but is there such a thing as too much? And so there have been guidelines put out. The Ministry of Health have actually said that, for example, 5 to 18-year-olds shouldn't be looking at screens outside of school time for more than 2 hours a day. Now, the research shows that kids are doing much more than that, and I think most parents watching this program will know that their kids are on their screens, on their phones, on their watching TV much more than 2 hours. The research in New Zealand has shown for under fives, for which there's no guidelines, which begs the question, why not? For under fives, there are no guidelines, but kids, about 2/3 of our kids, according to the Auckland University study of 7,000 kids, they're doing this progressive study through the life of the kids growing up in New Zealand, they found that 2/3 of the kids were watching the TV or looking at screens for well over 2 hours per day. Now, the research is showing that there can be issues, obviously with watching flashy images, especially if they're doing it just before bedtime. If, for example, Junior is clearing texts under the sheets at night time when he should be sleeping, if they're watching high visual, high impact video games, and also what are they doing instead? What could they be doing instead when they're watching or playing PlayStation all day? They're not outside, they're not being active, and there's attention issues. So these are all things that are raised in the report.
I wonder if there's a correlation with obesity rate going up.
Well, some would argue that. Some would say that kids are sitting around too much, and then you get into the big debate about have we created such a safe society that you can't even have a flying fox in a area near where I live. They've just taken down the flying fox because it was making too much noise. The kids were screaming too much and having too much fun. So, that's the worry. But look, I think the main concern is that there is this push for technology, and technology is a great thing. We all use it, we benefit from it. It is educational, but this report is simply looking at some of the international research and the fact that governments around the world are starting to suggest guidelines. And we want parents just to be aware of this research. What are some of the concerns? For example, just simple things like try to keep technology out of bedrooms. Technology in bedrooms is a bad combination because bedrooms are for sleeping, and when you've got technology or kids looking at screens late at night, it's shown to affect sleep patterns. I don't think we want to go quite as far as Taiwan has just done. They've just passed a law that criminalises parents for letting their kids watch too much screen time, too much screens. The problem with the law is they don't define what is too much. So I don't know how they're going to implicate the law, but the sentiment is there. They're basically saying, hey, let's be aware of some of the health concerns around kids sitting, playing PlayStation, looking at screens too much.
And if Taiwan can do it, why can't we?
Well, I'd be worried if we did. We don't want to criminalise parents any further than they already are, but look, it's simply raising the concern. I mean, I think one thing that the report raised for me is why hasn't the Ministry of Health given guidelines for under fives? Because we do know that kids, look, I'm a parent, I'm guilty of it.
Coming up after the break, the famous Hamilton Gardens Art Festival. Welcome back to Central News. Since 1999, Hamilton Gardens Art Festival has been entertaining audiences for 2 weeks over summer. The festival is a fantastic mix of intimate theatre, festivals within festivals, music of all genre, street theatre and visual arts. Anne-Marie spoke with director Bex Chambers about her new role as festival director and why it was so appealing.
I guess what was so appealing was the fact that it's in this beautiful venue. It's a world-class, it's a gardens which is world-class. It's just won an international award, and there's not very many opportunities you get to work in such a beautiful location. So that was really what did it for me, definitely.
What's one of your aims for the festival?
One of my aims, I think, again, it comes back to the venue. Like, we've got so many beautiful locations that we can utilise for different performances. So I guess, my passion and my background is trying to expose all different areas of the community to new performance and new work. So I think the aim for me is to try and develop audiences and get them into not just different performance experiences, but different locations, different gardens. You know, get performers from all over the country to come and do commissioned work in different venues, and that's really what my aim will be over the next year or so.
You hit the ground running in September, not a huge lead up actually. What have been some of the challenges in that time?
Well, I guess just the whole time frame has been a challenge. Like ideally you'd have at least a year. A lot of arts festivals are actually biannual. So at least a year to kind of research the different performances and get going. So the whole time frame's been a restriction, and with Christmas and New Year being in the middle of that, there's really been only maybe 2-3 months which you can actually do all the work. But the biggest restriction is funding and sponsorship. If obviously events are really expensive to put on, and if you don't have the funds, you can't do what you wish to do. So that's been a huge restriction and a hurdle to get through. But yeah, we're muddling through.
There's been a bit of confusion over whether alcohol is allowed at the events, BYO, or you need to purchase. Can you clarify that situation?
Yeah, sure. It's a really tricky one. The alcohol, basically when I arrived at the end of September, I heard the community saying how they wanted the brochure out as soon as possible, like they were just hanging out to get the booklet with all the performances in. So we didn't really have time to get all the answers about the alcohol situation. So in the booklet it does say that the events could be non-BYO. And at this point, I needed clarification about the alcohol restrictions within the gardens and what our special licence covered. So that was kind of a safety net for us to be able to kind of cover if the council or the police turned around and said, no, actually you can't let a public bring their own. So the best thing to do is probably to check our website, ring us. When you're buying tickets, talk to the people there just to double check. But we're really hoping that the whole festival can be BYO, and that there's 2 events that won't be BYO. That will be Dame Malvina Major and Backyard Beats, just because we're going to try non-BYO and have like a bar available. So yeah, it's all kind of getting sorted at the moment.
What are you most looking forward to seeing at the festival?
I'm looking forward to seeing all the different spaces being used. It's been very difficult for me not having seen a lot of the gardens in use as a performance venue. So I'm really looking forward to just seeing all of the things. Like we've got the Bookbinder, for example. That's a theatre piece that's going to be done in a very small space in the Japanese Garden of Contemplation. So I just can't wait to see things like that.
The Hamilton Gardens Art Festival runs until February the 26th. If you'd like to see an event's timetable or find out more, visit their website. And our last story for this evening, the Waikato Family Centre is a unique service that offers Waikato families with babies under 12 months professional, friendly, practical, non-judgmental support. Anne-Marie spoke with nurse manager Maureen Speedy and a family centre mum, Laura Monaghan, to find out more.
Well, it's a place where mothers can come, health-based, if they have any problems with themselves, with baby or a toddler. And they're worried, but they can't put a particular name on it.
Maureen, what are some of the common issues that the Waikato Family Centre help families with?
Probably the unsettled child, crying baby, breastfeeding, bottle feeding, a lot now, which is reflux is a problem. We're getting more and more allergies, or a pattern for a baby that the mother knows should be sleeping more. Nothing she can put a finger on that's wrong with the bub.
Laura, you received help from the Waikato Family Centre for your little one, Darcy. Tell me what the issues were that brought you here.
Well, we actually started coming quite early on when Darcy was 3 weeks old, which is quite early for a family centre baby. She basically wouldn't sleep during the day. She'd go from, on a bad day, would go from sort of 6 in the morning till about midnight and have 3 half-hour sleeps, and it would take about an hour and a half to get her to settle. So you can imagine I had a lot of support, but I was starting to tear my hair out. I knew something. People were saying to me, sometimes that's just what babies do, but I knew something was wrong. It turned out to be reflux, as a lot of babies do have nowadays, and the Family Centre helped me identify that and sort of gave me advice on where to go to get that sorted out.
What did you do? Where did you go?
Had to go to the GP 2 or 3 times to get her on the appropriate medication, and we did actually end up spending a week in the Mothercraft unit at the hospital, where they had a paediatrician come in and really tinker with her dose and get it so that, you know, she was on the perfect dose for her. And since she's been about 6 months old, it hasn't been an issue.
Were there other underlying issues that the Waikato Family Centre picked up on?
Yes, within about within 2 conversations with me, Maureen had identified that I wasn't coping, and then it was more than just a lack of sleep, or that it was more than just an unsettled baby, that, for lack of a better words, I was unsettled too, and helped me get the confidence and make the decision to go to my GP, where I have been treated for postnatal depression. And I don't know that without the Family Centre I would have actually, I knew something was wrong, and I knew something was wrong within me, but I don't think I would have actually made the step to go to my GP and say, I'm not right, can you help me? And since then have joined the postnatal depression group at the Family Centre, which has been a godsend, and I've made some really close friends out of it and just got a lot of help out of it. So in that regard, I've been helped a lot by the Family Centre.
Maureen, is Laura's story common for the mums who come to Waikato Family Centre?
Very, very common, because the mothers these days, well educated, thanks to Facebook, thanks to everything, but they do hide it themselves, because for some reason they think it is their fault if they're not the perfect mother. And a lot of them have a huge amount of stress, and they are not quite honest with the health professionals, who may be trying to dig, but we do see a lot of it, and you can help them. Finding out that they've got it, putting a name to it, trying to take away the taboo that it's a mental illness, therefore a failure, and normalising it, I think, and then making some suggestions. Perhaps even we try to bring Dad into it, or so that he can give some background. Sometimes the mother-in-law. So we are fairly family-based, because that's where Mum's going to get the main support.
The Waikato Family Centre is holding a fundraiser this Sunday, the 22nd of February, at Hamilton Lake. All the details on the Waikato Buggy Run are on their Facebook page, facebook.com/Waikato Family Centre. That is Central News for tonight. If you'd like to get in contact with us, you can via our Facebook page, centralnews.tv, or you can email us, news@tvcentral.co.nz. Join me again tomorrow night for more stories from the sunny bay and the warm Waikato. Until then, I'm Hilary Entwistle. I hope you have a lovely evening.
This has been an Alpha Media production, a division of Television Media Group.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.